Hello everybody and welcome back to the Miser's Guide to Evony. In today's video we're going to be talking about equipment sets, the brand new feature that was released by Evony over the holiday season. It came in a recent patch where you were forced to update, and if you did explore the equipment, you'll see that there is a new section in every piece of equipment that says set attributes, has a couple numbers and different bonuses. And we're going to talk about what that is and how that is going to change the game in the future. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what equipment sets are all about. I'm going to discuss the positive and negatives to this implementation. I'm going to talk about attributes, what you see here, what they mean, and what you'll see in the different sets. And finally, I'll give my recommendations on what you might do for the different kinds of generals that you might be gearing up. First, what are they? Equipment sets are basically like collections. The more type of a gear set that you collect, the further you get into the set attributes unlocking. You'll see the numbers 2, 4, 6 to the left of the set attributes section in this tooltip here. Some of them are highlighted in green. That means I have acquired them, and this one is highlighted in white. So when I've reached that 2 or that 4 or that 6, it will turn green to show me that they have been unlocked. So you'll see that I have 2 and 4 unlocked here, which means I have at least 4 pieces of Ecumenidae. And for this one, for Ares, I have, it looks like 2 pieces. Which ones did I do? So I have legs and helm that are Ares, and I have 4 pieces here that are Ecumenidae. And I'll talk about why I geared it that way later. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's a collection. The more you collect of a type of gear set, the further along you get in the set attributes table here. And that might have a pretty big impact on what kinds of items you choose to equip onto your generals. Attributes. Attributes are designed to improve your kingdom. There's a lot of variety to the kinds of attributes you'll see in the gear sets. There are some that are PvP oriented, like all troops attack plus 10% is mostly for PvP battles. I mean, it will affect your PvE as well, but realistically that's more of an impact on PvP. And then you have some that are more PvE oriented, like when attacking monsters, ground troop and mounted troop attack and defense increases by 25%. And then you have some debuffs, like minus 15% to enemy troop attack. In some other gear sets, you have march size capacity, you might have gathering speed, troop load, and we will look at those attributes later. But basically they are improvements to your kingdom or to your army. And the attributes do vary by set. So you can already see that the attributes are different from Ecumenidae to Ares. There are positives and negatives to this implementation. The positives I've highlighted in green over here, and these are just my thoughts. I think that one of the positives to this implementation is that it is just a pure increase. They didn't remove anything from the game to add these set bonuses. So everybody here is benefiting from being able to collect the sets. There are more options definitely now in terms of how we're going to customize our gear sets. You might be trying to go for the basic attributes and increasing those depending on the kinds of army you have, or you might also be going towards achieving the different levels of your set attributes. And it's really going to add a little layer of customization to your gearing. Some of these bonuses are really good too, and that's one thing I really like, that some of them, like all troops attack or enemy troop attack minus 15%, and march size capacity, those are pretty significant. They are really, really strong bonuses that didn't exist before. They're just added in, and that's definitely a positive. On the other hand, some of them are not so great. For example, Ecumenidae equipment is not generally going to be used for attacking monsters, ground troops, mounted troop attack, defense, that is meaningless for this set of equipment. The reason that it's in the middle, like to me, it seems like the more pieces you have collected, the better the attribute that you're gaining from the set bonus should be. But that middle one just makes no sense. Who's going to actually gear up with Echemenidae as, to attack monsters? Probably not. Echemenidae is more used for debuffing and there are some good pieces that could be used, but you're not going to do a 6-piece or a 4-piece for that purpose. It's not realistic. So some bonuses just aren't great. Another negative is in making these set attributes, a lot of other pieces have lost value or they've become obsolete. I've talked in previous videos before about how important it is to have a lot of debuff equipment on your subordinate city generals, and especially gearing towards debuffing ranged troops. And it's the reason that I have so many Andrew Jacksons, and my Andrew Jacksons are primarily geared towards debuffing archer attack. So here's an example here. This guy's definitely not finished, so let's skip to another guy. Andrew Jackson's not being nice to me today. Where did I skip them all? I think I skipped them all. I've moved things around right now. There they are. So I've moved things around quite a bit in terms of my equipment. But before I used to go for these Ares chests. I don't have it equipped here, but I used to have an Ares chest that would reduce enemy ranged attack by, I think, 35% as well. And that was a significant decrease for ranged troop attack, and one of the only ones that was available outside of the ring and so on. So it was hard to debuff ranged troop attack, but it was so crucial. And now all those Ares chess pieces that people might have crafted and spent a lot of materials and badges to create are now less valuable, and frankly, they're I think at this point they're becoming obsolete. So, that's a negative for sure. All that investment is not so great anymore. Another negative is it is more difficult to determine the best gear set that you might want on your equipment or on your generals, especially for offensive and defensive PvP generals. However, I don't know if that's necessarily a negative. Adding a little complexity and ability to customize is possibly a positive as well, because it allows you to be a little more flexible. The reason I have it listed as a negative there is because this is really an expensive game, and to mess around and not being able to customize without having a huge impact to your kingdom is, it's tough. I can't just destroy my equipment and get the materials back so I can try doing something else. I can't do that. So it is definitely something now that I think is on the negative side. Perhaps in the future they'll make it so that you can recycle equipment and it won't cost too much to redo other than speed ups, and that would be wonderful. But in the case of right now, that is not, and a lot of those previous items are obsolete. Set attributes are the next topic I want to talk about, and what I mean by that, earlier in the video I discussed how each of the gear sets, like Echemenidae, Dragon, Kings, Ares, they all have different set attributes. So we're going to take a quick look at those. I've colored each of these with my own opinion on how valuable these set attributes are. Green means awesome. Yellow means valuable. And then you have, it's orange, or I don't know what color that is. Orange, brownish is not so great, possibly useful if you're low level. And red is just stay away from those. They're god-awful. So let's take a look at each of these. Echemenidae. Set attributes. All troop attack plus 10%. Fantastic. The 4-piece, useless. And then the 6-piece, enemy troop attack minus 15%. That is great. So previously I talked about the debuffing range troop attack by 35%. I mean, that's super important, and it does help, but I think in my opinion, I would rather go for 15% debuff to all troops. It's only a 20% difference in terms of ranged troop attack, but every other troop is also debuffed as well. So I think this is going to be more valuable to gear towards that 6-piece. I'm going to hop over to equipment upgrades so I can take a look at Ares. So the Ares set attributes: attacking troop attack 15%, and when attacking monsters, ground troop and mounted troop attack and defense 25%. And then you have march size capacity plus 10%. The 6-piece is excellent. 15% for a 2-piece, that is fantastic as well. And then you have 25% when attacking monsters and so on. That's valuable in PvE. So if you have so you're setting up a boss general and so on, you're going to want to go towards Ares as well and try to get that 6-piece. It's going to be valuable in that case, but the 4-piece isn't so valuable for PvE generally. Let's take a look at Dragon next. Dragon set bonuses. You have 15% gathering speed. That's not the greatest, obviously, for Dragon. If you're using Dragon for PvP or PvE, that's probably a disappointing set attribute. But when you're getting to keep 35, you're not going to have a whole lot of Dragon gear. So I'm going to talk about how that set attributes, that 2-piece, is actually a positive later on. The next 2 pieces, or the next 2 set attributes when attacking monsters attack and defense minus 10%. I don't know how I feel about that. That doesn't seem too important unless I'm considering world boss and so on, but I think I would still prefer to go to Ares and try to get that 6-piece with the 10% march capacity. But if you are not at the point where you can get 6-piece Ares, which many people aren't, then that might be a good option here to get that reduction. And then you have the 6-piece of attacking troops attack, so that's your offensive attack, an increase of 10%, and that's similar to the 15% that you would get from the Ares. Going down to Kings. So Dragon and Kings I had marked as yellow, and that's because they have some value, and I would say that they're valuable, but they're not ideal. You don't generally want to go for a Dragon set or a King set unless you're doing something very specific to work those items. The set attributes for Kings, you have march speed plus 15%. Not super important at all. If you are gearing somebody with Kings, you're probably doing it for resource gathering, so march speed, just useless. The marching, range troop attack, and HP, and the next one as well. All of the set attributes here for Kings, just not good. I don't even know why I put that as yellow. I probably put that as yellow because I was thinking the gear set itself is valuable, not the set attributes. So Kings is possibly not as valuable as it was for resource gathering before, based on what I see with all the other set attributes, but it still has value. So yeah, I'll leave it as yellow. Generals. Coming down here. So Generals only has a 2-piece and a 4-piece. The 2-piece is attacking monsters. Well, their monster attack is minus 5%. That sucks. And the 4-piece is 15% increase to troop attack when attacking monsters. Also sucks. It's not something you're going to want to be gearing for. If you have to get those pieces because you are growing and you're smaller at the moment, then it's just bonus stuff, so that's fine, but don't go out of your way to build a whole set of Generals gear. Just not worth your time or your materials. Okay, moving down to champions. Where are champions? I think I have to wear like boots or something to get there. I click around. Here we go. Champions. So champions, the champion set I listed as yellow, which is interesting because it is a step below Kings, yet it has the same value now as Kings, in my opinion. And I'm going to explain why. So the set attributes here are gathering speed plus 10%, which is obviously valuable, and you have 10% increase to extra resources from gathering. And that is also a very significant set attribute. And now there's a little bit of room for gearing Queen Jindiox and Princess Lucy and other gatherers towards not just fully King's set. There are other options depending on your playstyle. That's something I'm going to talk about later on when I'm giving my recommendations. Transcendence, the last one I'm really going to talk about in any sort of detail. You have gathering speed plus 8% and troop load. So if you are leveling and you're low keep level, it's not terrible to have a couple of these on gatherers. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal, obviously, either, and that's why I put pretty low value on there. And the rest of it, elites, solidity, agility, edge, they're useless. Don't even bother, just skip them. Okay. So here's where we get into the important stuff, my recommendations. I would normally say for resource gatherers like Queen Jindiox, if you were going to gear them, I would normally tell you to gear them up with King's gear, and don't worry about the ring because the ring doesn't have a whole lot of options there, but get all the King's gear you can because it has gathering speed to it, like so, or gathering speed, troop load, like this, it's great stuff. And then you would do refinement and get more gathering speed, so they would just collect really, really, really quickly. And I still have that suggestion. If you're somebody that has a high level activity, meaning that you're going to be on, and high level to me is if you are on in the morning, and you don't have to necessarily be on all day, but you're on in the morning, you're on before noon, and then you're on a couple hours later. Let's say you're on every time that your resource tiles are going to be finishing. If you are on that much, even if it's just for a couple minutes to send your gatherers out, if you are on that much, King's gear is still the right choice. You still want gathering speed so that you can make it so you can finish tiles faster, send out to get more, and keep that chain of resources coming in to be as efficient as possible. However, if you are not a high activity person, you're middle or you're low, so you're somebody that maybe wakes up and checks your account and sends out gatherers, but then maybe you don't do it until after work again. So your gatherers might actually be sitting around idle, not doing a whole lot for large portions of the day. Then there's some room for some changes. Another option is if you have not gone through the whole process of doing refinement on all your King's gear yet, if you haven't gone and increased your gathering speed on all of that equipment to maximize it, then there are other options now with these attributes. So I set it into two different categories here. If you are that high activity person, then I definitely recommend that you have 4 pieces of King's gear. So I'll just open up Jindiox here. Here's a Queen Jindiox. So I have all Kings here, but let's say you have 4 pieces of Kings. It's not really for the set attributes, but more for the ability to refine it a little better, and also because it naturally has the basic attributes that increase your gathering speed. So you want 4 pieces of that. And remember, the only ones that you can refine to get increased gathering speed are your weapon, your helm, and your legs. The other 3 pieces, you can't refine them to get those. So these would be 3 to definitely keep if you are going for the 4-piece Kings, and then you pick either the chest or the boots to keep as the 4th piece. In my opinion, if you're still the high activity person, then you probably want to go with a 2-piece of the dragon's gear now. Let me see if I can find one dragon's piece. I think there's one here. Here's a dragon armor. So the 2-piece, so let's say you get the ring and the boots. 2-piece gives you an increase of 15% gathering speed to all types. So 4-piece Kings, 2-piece dragon is definitely a great way to go if you are doing your Queen Jindeoks for high activity. And even if you're a low activity, I recommend you get one Queen Jindeok that is geared this way, because you will want to send it to the Alliance resource tile, which, you know, you can have a troop load that allow you to spend a day or two there. So higher gathering speed, definitely worthwhile there. If you are a mid to low activity person, as I described earlier, you might want to consider doing something a little different. I'm not going to do this because I am on quite a bit, but if you are mid to low activity, you might choose to go 4-piece champions. Let me see if I can find champions. Champions are the actual, you have actual like items, not ring or weapon, but boots, legs, chest, and helm. So you would go boots, legs, chest, helm with champions to get your gathering speed plus 10% and extra resources from gathering. You don't get the basic attributes, so you don't get that. But think of it this way: if you are not high activity and your guys are just going to be sent, your gatherers are just going to be sent out, you don't really care so much about how fast they complete it. But you also know that when they come back, they're going to be gaining an extra 10%. So you, over time, are definitely going to be gaining extra resources, and it's going to be pretty significant if you've geared for 4-piece champions. The 2-piece extra that you could go with is, I would suggest you go dragons. You could still get a little bit of gathering speed, and the nice thing about the 2-piece dragons is you can also get, you get the set attributes. You can't refine your ring for gathering speed, unfortunately, but your weapon you can. So if you are picking up, for example, Dragon Axe, then, oh, that's not what I want. Nope. You would pick Dragon Axe, or you'd pick the Spear. It doesn't matter really which one it does. They don't have the basic attributes that are gathering speed, but you can refine them to get increased gathering speed. So I would go 4-piece champions and 2-piece dragon if you are lower or mid activity on those Queen Jindeoks. Okay, next section here. The last recommendations I'm going to do are just the player versus player kinds of general setups. The first one I'll look at is the offensive gear. So that means a general you're attacking with, whether it be ranged, siege, mounted, ground, any of those that you may be using offensively in battlefield or otherwise. So let's take a look at Robert Lee, who I'm very happy to be replacing with Minamoto, because Robert Lee sucks. And especially with battlefield, like it's a completely useless thing. I just don't have anything better, but now I will. I'm very happy that Minamoto is coming through. For Robert Lee, or for my Minamoto later, what I would just choose is, personally, I would go 6-piece Ares. And the reason I do that is because I find that the march size capacity of 10% increase is going to be very, very valuable. I'm also going to get the 15% for all troops attacking. In this case, it's going to be focused on my archers. But that 10% increase to march size capacity, that's going to be pretty massive. So I will definitely be working my way towards that. Another option is just to look at your best in slot pieces. So, for example, you might have an Ares bow that is extremely strong with the basic attributes of 45% ranged troop attack, and you have marching ranged troop attack of 22%, so that's a lot already. And then I'm going to get my 2-piece, which is another 15%. I have excellent refining attributes here, so that's a great piece on this general. And so I could also just look at that. I could just look at the actual basic attributes and whether my set attribute is going to be worthwhile in gearing for, or if I should just be focusing on my basic attributes. And I can't give you the answers to that, because that's going to depend on your gear and what you have crafted. But I highly encourage you to weigh those options. Look at your basic attributes, your best in slots, and see what you have, and see whether that increase that you would get from the set attributes is going to be worthwhile. But for me, I'll probably go 6-piece Ares in this case. My wall general gear is slightly different. Let me go look at my wall general. I think I actually have an error here. So I have set attributes here, 2, 4, and 6, and these for Echimenidae are, as I said before, all geared, well, the two main ones are geared towards PvP. So I have all troops attack plus 10%, enemy troop attack minus 15%. That is really significant. Now, what I have here on this character is a 4-piece Echimenidae, and I have a 2-piece that is Ares. And my Ares is probably a poor choice because it's attacking troops attack. So my goal here would actually be to remove my Ares and put in Echimenidae. And that would be my gear choice. But at the moment, I don't have the pieces to put in, so I'm just going with the 2-piece Ares for now, even though my set attribute isn't really significant. The basic attributes that I'm getting out of my Ares are significant enough for me to decide to do a mix and match. My 4-piece Echimenidae and my 2-piece Ares. But you might find it the other way. You might find it that your setup is better as a 2-piece Echimenidae and a 4-piece Ares. I don't know, but you really have to look at the basic attributes that you are getting and the set attributes and kind of what you would get mixing and matching, and look at it this way. Or if you just want a very simplistic approach, just go with Echimenidae. The last PvP setup I'm going to look at is the subordinate city general. So I kind of touched on that before. Really, what you're going to be wanting to look at now is gearing your generals up for 6-piece Echimenidae. I had it before where they were kind of split up around. I had 3 pieces here, 4 pieces here, 2 pieces there, 6 pieces here. But when immediately as this feature was released, I noticed right away enemy troop attack minus 15% across the board. That is really significant. So I just pooled it all together to get as many 6 pieces as I possibly could. And it is having a very good impact on PvP battles after having done that. I have much higher debuffs than I did previously. So I would highly recommend you choose to gear your generals that way. Also, keep in mind that Echimenidae also has base debuffs that are higher than everything else, so it's much more significant than it would be to try to gear for any other kind of troop, any other kind of gear. All right, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you liked that video. Please subscribe, share the video if you found it useful, and check out other content in my channel. Thank you.